Hello everyone, today I'm going to be ranking the 14 Dragon Priest masks based on their in-game performance. There's a pretty big disparity between the usefulness, let's say, of these masks. Some of them are really good while others are like super bad. They can make a really big impact on your build, and all Dragon Priests are pretty much very difficult to kill. So the masks that are really low on this list are just very disappointing and not really worth getting unless you want to get them all for collecting, for example. So in last place, because it doesn't really have any effects per se, it's the wooden mask. This one you can obtain in Labyrinthian, and it's the one that you put on to obtain the final mask, Konahrik, or the final mask in the base game. I don't think it has any other function other than teleporting you. So yeah, that one's pretty simple. Getting into the masks that actually matter, although barely. Number 13, we have Volsung. This one can be located in Volskyke. It's a ruin west of Solitude. And Volsung is one of two Dragon Priests that use frost magic primarily. And this location in particular can actually be skipped if you just take a horse and just ride to the top of the mountain. I feel like this mask was a little bit of an afterthought. These enchantments are pretty bad and weird and they're just like random. So the first two that are pretty pointless is water breathing and 20 points of carrying capacity. 20 points of carrying capacity is just... why would you even put that on a Dragon Priest mask? It's so low. The one that is decent is the price has been better, but I don't think this is worth putting on a Dragon Priest mask or like getting it, because there are other items that you can obtain easier, even early game, that also give you 20% better prices. Yeah, now Volsung is just really bad. You might be surprised at number 12. Here I've decided to put Konahrik. So like I mentioned in the beginning, this mask, you have to obtain all the other 8 or 9 Dragon Priest masks in the base game, and then you get this one at the end. It has a pretty cool skin. This one, along with Miraak's mask, I think are the two coolest looking masks. But unfortunately, so basically what it does is whenever you fall below 15% health, it has a 15% chance to heal you, or a 3% chance not to heal you, and instead summon a Dragon Priest to fight with you. See, the helmet slot is a pretty important one in like your build, and I don't think that wasting it on something that has a 15% chance to heal you is really worth it. So yeah, this mask looks cool, but I wouldn't waste my time with it. At number 11, I've put Ragot. This one is a pretty simple one to understand. You get this mask in Foral Host. It's a little bit of a quest that you can sort of do right outside the entrance. And it's very simple. This mask just gives you 70 points of stamina. Sounds pretty good, but if you do a power attack with like a two-handed steel warhammer, it takes like 90 stamina away from you. 70 stamina is not as much as you think. Stamina is one of those stats that it doesn't translate the same. Increasing your stamina doesn't translate the same as, for example, increasing your health or your magicka. You can use your magicka to heal your health and your stamina for a lot lower cost, if that makes sense. So 40 points of magicka can heal your health 150 points and your stamina 150 points. This isn't very... yeah, it's not good. It's not good to use Ragot. And of course, the elephant in the room, you have vegetable soup for everybody. Next, we have Vokun. So why I put this so low is going to be a little bit difficult to explain, but bear with me. Basically, this mask's enchantments don't really work well together. When was the last time you saw someone or used yourself like Alteration, Conjuration, and Illusion all at the same time, all in the same build? These are basically 3 schools of magic that just don't really jive well together. It's not like the Destruction school where you have to spam out the spells and use them continuously, right? You usually cast these spells pre-combat, and then they just last throughout the entire fight for like 60 seconds or whatever it is. You don't need to keep casting it over and over again. Basically, so to explain it in another way, it's like trying to be a warrior, mage, and stealth archer all at the same time, all in the same build. Like it just doesn't work together. But yeah, you find this mask in Highgate Ruins, very close to Ustengrav. So number 9, I've put Miraak. This is pretty much what I said when I mentioned that the first 6 masks are, yeah, they're pretty useless. You don't really need to worry about them. Only get them if you want to collect them. This mask essentially gives you 70 extra magicka, but during the College of Winterhold, you can also get a circlet that is leveled and also can give you 70 points of magicka. Just like, I mean, the good thing about this mask is that it can be light or heavy armor depending on what you have leveled up more. And I think this is kind of a missed opportunity. It should have been something that is on all the Dragon Priest masks, in my opinion. That would have been way cooler, because the Dragon Priest mask heavily favor heavy armor. Most of them are heavy armor except for like 2 or something. And come to think of it, Miraak's armor is a bit weird too, because it also looks pretty cool, yeah, but it helps you absorb the breath of like dragons. But by the time you kill Miraak, you would have killed many dragons and fought many enemies that are melee, and your reward is to be a little bit better at like deflecting dragon breath attack. That this thing suffers from like the spellbreaker paradox, where once you get it, you're already good at deflecting whatever it helps you deflect, you know. Yeah, it looks cool though, the armor looks cool, but I don't think it's worth it. So at number 9, Krosis. This is the territory where I would actually start to say that the mask become pretty decent. This thing gives you 20% better archery, though I think the Dark Brotherhood hood is probably better for this. It also gives you lockpicking, but lockpicking is just pretty meh. The real reason I like this mask though is the alchemy. There are very few items that increase your alchemy that you can get early on that are not chance based. I think there is the Ring of Pure Mixtures, there's Muri's Ring, a little bit into the Dark Brotherhood, and then there's this mask. Since Krosis is a Dragon Priest that is just out in the open at sheer point, this is usually the first Dragon Priest that I kill so that I can get this mask and, for example, use it to make stronger potions, so that it can help me fight the other dragon priests later on. Because yeah, you don't have to clear a dungeon or anything to kill Krosis. There's only one thing, there's a dragon guarding him if you've activated dragons, but you don't have to fight them both at the same time. You just activate the dragon, kill the dragon, and once it's dead, then you approach Krosis. Don't get too close though. But yeah, decent Dragon Priest mask. Eventually it does lose its usefulness like later on, but so does everything. At number 8, I have put Dukaan. I put this here purely based on the fact that it gives you defenses against frost, and it can be useful if you are a destruction mage and you're fighting a fire dragon, because fire dragons have weakness to frost. But as a warrior, you should really only use it for the defenses to frost, if you even need it, because technically frost spells are the easiest ones to dodge because they're not hit scans like shock spells, and they also don't have splash damage like fireballs. You get this mask in Solstheim in White Ridge Barrow. Maybe if you were playing survival where frost is a lot bigger of an issue, this could be more useful, but as far as like the normal game, I don't think this is it doesn't rank very highly at all. Now next up we have Hevnoraak, and just hear me out for a second, because everybody places this mask pretty low because nobody likes poison defense, I get it. So whenever you are obtaining some of the better rewards in this game, like Dragon Ren during the main storyline, or the Ethereal Crown, or Sailor's Repose for the restoration spell, a lot of the time it takes you through dungeons that have Falmers in them. The College of Winterhold does as well to get Morokei. And you can kind of think of poison defense, even though it's capped at 85, you can kind of think of it as like another element. So you have fire, frost, and shock, and then you have like poison. Falmers and Charises, and those winged Charises, the ones that fly, those things can do like 400 damage on legendary in like one attack. It's ridiculous. So many times I'm just like minding my own business, clearing the dungeon, no problem, and then all of a sudden boom, boom, it's like, bro, what the hell was that? Yeah, those enemies are crazy strong. This thing caps your poison defense at 85. The disease resistance is not that important, but the poison is what's important when you're fighting Falmers. The way I like to use these masks is that I switch between them depending on the situation, because you don't, there's not one mask to rule them all, of course, but this thing is essentially like protecting you against poison in the best way possible. Also the long hammer is a great weapon for 200 warriors. That dungeon is absolute cancer to go through because of all the Falmers. So next up, Nahkriin. The shitty thing about this mask is that you have to go through so far into the main storyline to get it, because I think it's very useful. This is a good example of a mask that just doesn't have a lot of flashy stuff. It just does things right? 50 magicka, where if you combine this with the Atronach Stone, the High Elves starting magicka, it's just really good. You can get a lot of magicka, but you have to get into the main storyline quite far. This is right before you go to Sovngarde, and there's a little trick where you can make the Dragon Priest not pick up his staff and make the fight quite easy. Actually, there are a couple of tricks with Dragon Priest that you can use, a couple of them. It also gives you 20% restoration and destruction. See, these two schools of magic gel very well together, in contrary to Vokun that has conjuration, alteration, and the other one, illusion. Jesus, those three schools of magics don't really gel well together, while restoration and destruction, they're pretty straightforward. It's like using a sword and a shield, one's for defense, one's for attack. It's just easy to understand, and the 50 extra magicka is solid too. So yeah, this is just a good all-round mask. At number 4 we have Ahzidal. One thing about the Ahzidal quest, Unearthed, if you try to do it all at once, it's gonna feel like such a chore. So I recommend every time you're at Solstheim, try to progress that quest so you do it over time. It doesn't feel like such a grind, because this quest, it just takes flipping forever. A bonus that you also get Ahzidal's armor, which increases, if you wear 4 pieces of it, increases your enchanting. That's a pretty decent thing. Ahzidal is obviously a fire-based dragon priest. This mask I think is pretty crucial if you are a destruction mage, because it gives you 25% stronger fire spells, and this is actually worth using as opposed to frost. It's pretty decent too to defend you against fire, although with the anniversary edition of the game, there are armors that defend you quite a bit against fire. So I guess this one's mainly for like destruction mages. You really want this if you're a destruction mage. This one and the next one coming up, which is Zahkriisos. Zahkriisos is a level dragon priest. This is usually the second dragon priest that I kill because he could be a minimum of level 25 and a maximum of level 60. I've seen this mask rank low on a couple people's mask rankings, but the thing they say is that there's not a lot of enemies that use shock. That is correct. Dragons don't use shock, blah blah blah. But the thing, there's not a lot of items that defend you against shock, and shock is by far the most difficult out of the elements to defend yourself against. Not to mention it drains your magicka too. So you can't just tank hits because you can't heal yourself. Shock enemies are the most difficult, and a lot of the crucial enemies, many of the dragon priests are shock. A couple of the enemies in the Saints and Seducers use shock. A couple of the enemies in the Ghost of the Tribunal. All these quests give you excellent rewards, but you can't complete them if you're being zapped for like all your health and all your magicka. Because it's not like Melee where you can dodge it and bob and weave and exploit the enemy's AI. You can't do that with magic. And because Zahkriisos is leveled, he's not going to be at his highest level if you fight him earlier on. If you're a shock mage, of course, 25 stronger shock spells is very good for you too. Yeah, I like this mask very much. At number 2, I put Otar. This is another one that ranks pretty low. For most people, it's weird to me. You get this in Ragnvald, and you know, when you combine this mask with something like the Dragon Imperial armor, and the Breton, for example, you can just almost get capped immediately to spells. Otar, by the way, he uses shock as his offensive school primarily. But yeah, I don't really know. This thing is kind of like having like a Lord Stone in your pocket that you can pull out at any time. I don't know why people don't rank this mask higher, because we all agree that like the Breton is good because of the defenses towards the elements, right? Everybody thinks the Breton is a good class. This is like a pocket Breton. It's like you have a Breton in your back pocket, you can pull it out at any time. It's crazy strong, and it's a lot lighter than the Dragon Imperial armor. So Otar is pretty simple, just 30% towards all the elements, but it's really, really good. Another mask that you pull it out when you need it, right? You're not just gonna have this on your character the entire time because it may not help you in every fight if you're not fighting mages. But if you are, then it's one of the best things that you can have. So if you've been keeping up, at number 1, the only one left is Morokei. One thing I want to say quickly before we continue though, is this is only number 1 if you have the unofficial, for me, if you have the unofficial patch. If you don't, the only thing that this mask gives you is 100% magicka regeneration, which in that case I would probably put it behind Miraak's mask. But because there are so few items that give you shout cooldown, and this thing gives you shout cooldown, it was supposed to be like this with the release of Skyrim, but they messed it up somehow along the way. There are a couple of advantages that you have when you're fighting the AI enemies in Skyrim, and one of them is shouting. Shouting in this game is kind of like a cheat code, literally. It's really fun, but it's also really effective. You find this mask a bit into the quest line of the College of Winterhold in Labyrinthian. You have to fight Morokei, the dragon priest, and a little trick to fighting him, if you have the Atronach stone on. I don't believe Morokei shoots you with the staff, the staff of Magnus, because the game kind of input reads that you have 50% magic defense, and since the staff of Magnus drains your magicka before it drains your health, I think Morokei just stands there looking at you. It could be different depending on what version of the game you're playing or whatever, so you might have to try this out for yourself. But I put on the Atronach stone once, and he just stood there gawking, like just backing away, not doing any offensive attacks. So this mask is unfortunately light armor. This is my favorite Dragon Priest mask, and heavy armor is my favorite type of armor. So they don't really work well together. I still use it because, you know, shouting is good for like the videos, be flashy and stuff like that. But I do handicap myself quite a bit when I use this light armor mask with heavy armor, because I don't get the bonuses for wearing all heavy armor and stuff like that. So yeah, Morokei is amazing. With this, you can reach 100% shout cooldown without doing any glitches. You need the Blessing of Talos, the Amulet of Talos, this mask, the Storm Bear armor, that's 80%, and then if you use 2 or 3 words of Dragon Aspect, I don't know if you have to use 2 or 3, maybe you do have to use all 3, you can actually gain 100% shout cooldowns for 5 minutes. That is really cool, in my opinion. I recommend getting the top 7 or so masks and just switching between them depending on the situation, and then only get the other ones if you want to, because they don't really have a very good effect on them. If you made it this far, remember to like the video. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.